Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Syncast. I'm Madeleine Johnson. I'm the host, and I'm Synup's content and community manager. Today, I'm talking with Judy Lin about the ins and outs of digital marketing, from running her own agency and supporting clients to her own journey in the SEO world. So it's going to be a good one. Judy, why don't you kick us off by telling everybody a little bit about yourself, how you got started in the space?
Sure. Thanks, Madeleine. Thanks for inviting me. I'm the CEO of Digital Marketing Doctor Agency here in Carlsbad, California. And I started from the internet industry where I was director of marketing, and I was responsible for PPC, SEO, paid media, and was in the industry for about 15 years. And when I was working for someone, I kept getting laid off. So it just reached a point where I just didn't want to be laid off anymore, even though I had one of the highest performance reviews. And so I started my own consulting, and I started with one little doctor, and that account became my biggest account. And then I kept adding on more people. And fast forward 20 years later, I have an entire team of 11 people, 11 to 12 people on the team. And we service the entire gamut of SEO, paid search, web design. We now also have hosting, content marketing, blogs, video, podcasting, backlinks, everything. So we've become, we've become like a one-stop shop solution now for most clients, because most clients, they don't want to talk to like 6, 8 people. They want to go to one person, and if they have a problem with graphics or the web design, or they need an update, they just want to go to one person and have you handle everything. So we become pretty much that, a one-stop shop for digital marketing.
Yeah, I love that approach. It's so smart, because I feel like a lot of people always say they're an expert in one thing, and then suddenly you have to find, if you're a company or you're a brand, you suddenly have to find 4 or 5 experts just to manage this one part of your business, which is defeats the purpose and makes it a lot more complicated. So yeah, I love that you guys do everything. Certainly incredible. Yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you approach the strategy for your clients. What's your tactic?
Sure. So typically when a new client comes to us, we do an SEO audit of their website, how much traffic they're getting, how much impression, click-through rate, all of that on the technical side. But typically I like to interview the client myself and get to know them. I like to understand their brand, their services, what their positioning is, if they have one. Sometimes, surprisingly, some brands don't really know who they are just yet. I mean, it's a little, but that's why they come to us, right?
Right.
It's like sometimes they don't know exactly who their target market is, or what kind of company they want to be. Do they want to be a technology company? Do they want to be a consulting company? Do they want to be a specialized in a specific area? So I think the most important in the very beginning is knowing who you are, your messaging, your positioning, your brand, because the brand will dictate how you message and how you communicate out through all the different venues. So you can't be inconsistent. You say you're a technology company, and then you're saying you're a call center somewhere else. It depends. I mean, so there's some overlap. I think it's really important to know specifically who you are, and then from there you branch out to the different digital venues.
Right. Yeah, you have to have like that good foundation of having like a clear brand vision and like a clear, this is who we are, because then it gets way too complicated.
And same tagline.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've definitely found my fair share of companies online where maybe they haven't updated their website, or maybe different people worked on different pages, but it's like the messaging's all over the place, and I'm like, what's going on?
That's so funny. Yeah.
Oh my God. So you start with like defining the brand, and then how do you kind of determine what the client ends up needing? Like, obviously you guys do everything, but
Right. So most of the time when we land a new client, you're somewhat inheriting the client from the former consulting company, right? So what happens is, if we inherit a new client from some other agency, we take a look at what has been done where what has not been done. And surprisingly, sometimes, you go into, let's say, a WordPress website, you go to check the metadata or the back end, and you don't see any work done, and you wonder,
No.
well, what have they been doing for the last few years if they can't do something as basic as that, right?
Right.
And it's sad to say, but sometimes the clients don't understand the digital world or the digital language. So, they don't know what they're paying for. And so I act as a translator, as a communicator as well, is to translate, well, why are we doing paid search? Why are we doing, organic SEO, basically? And most of the reason is, at the end of the day, the clients, they just want to generate leads, right? Everybody just wants to generate leads. So I explained to them, okay, these are the different campaigns that we do in order to drive traffic, in order to drive brand awareness and conversions into your site. So you could have new clients and more revenue, or increase your revenue. So we pretty much take a step back and look at what has been done prior to us coming on board. And we either improve or axe the campaigns, or we set a new parameter of new campaigns that we think will be more effective and more successful. And so a lot of it is we have to look at some reporting. There's the technical aspect of it. We look at a lot of the reporting of the traffic wise, and ask, well, why is it that it's not generating this much X amount of leads of what they want? So I typically work with a client in deciding what their monthly goals are and what they want in leads and conversions. And then I devise the digital strategies and to get there. I think doing the actual work is the easy part, creating the SEO campaigns, whether it's content writing, or we call it localization pages, or blog optimizations. That's the easy part. But what happens with a lot of agencies, they're not piecing it together into a holistic approach. So when I'm doing blog optimization and someone's working on, let's say, the user friendliness of the website, it's all interrelated, because all these campaigns essentially are driving traffic into your website, and that is the ultimate goal, right? But a lot of times agencies, they're doing things silo, and they're not communicating, and they don't realize, oh, that graphic that I did for Facebook ads is going to affect the metrics when the person that actually does a paid media and runs the campaign. If they have a spelling error, or the link doesn't work, or it's broken, it's all interrelated. So my approach is very holistic with clients. It's my writing, when I write for them, either in, let's say, the interview questions for the video, or it gets translated into some sort of blog content or a content on the website. It matters, because you're speaking the same message across the board. And, we got to be really clear and very precise with that.
Yeah. I love that. And it does make sense, because if you're starting the process by saying, like, let's get this down, like, let's see what we're about. Then if you have a bunch of different people who run off with that and aren't synced up in their actions, then you end up with a bunch of different results. Yeah.
Well, the other thing, Madeleine, that I think what happens is, there's been cases where clients in the past have spent an enormous amount of money. Let's say they spent something like 10,000 on some banner on a tennis court or on a signage. And I'm thinking $10,000 that you blew on a signage, I could have used that in my budget for SEO or paid search, right? And the longevity is so much longer and sustainable if it's online, because it's evergreen, right? If you have something that's on the internet, it's evergreen until someone deletes it or takes it off the page. Whereas, I understand print and radio, the traditional route, which I've done in the past. It's a little more antiquated unless you have a physical shop, or you have a physical office, or a dental practice or medical practice. That makes sense. I get that. But I think the core of your work should be digital and online, because that's what people do every day, right? They search, they do Google search. If you're not coming up in the first couple pages, there's a understanding and perception of clout also. If I
Right.
Google, let's say an eye surgeon or an orthopedic surgeon in my area in Carlsbad, and they're not even showing up at all on the first page, I'm going to question,
Yeah.
well, are they,
I'm
is
not
this
going to go to
quackery?
them.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. I like what you said about the having things on the web has so much more longevity, and I feel like
Right.
that's something so crazy where when I look something up, I don't remember what I looked up recently. I may have looked up like what do you do when two dogs are fighting? Like should you regulate it or
Right.
should
Right.
you ignore them? And an article came up that was from a blog that might have been published 5 years ago, 7 years
Yeah.
ago. It was still relevant information. It was still on the internet. Like if you go through the work and do the proper SEO, you do the proper foundational steps, you don't have to go and spend another 10K on a billboard, like it's still
Right.
going to be out there. It's still going to show up.
Right. Unless you have a competitor or some other writers that wrote about the same topic and they're going to flush you out, so to speak.
Right.
You know,
Right.
they have pretty much dominated the internet where they're showing
Yeah.
up first.
Right.
Um, Before I forget, the other thing I want to tie into is also the online reputation.
Mm.
So, when we were talking about having your search results show up in the first top 3 positions or rankings, there's definitely a clout level, that's being seen. And
Mm.
also your reviews matter, your online reputation. I mean, it doesn't matter how beautiful your site is or how great of work you do if you don't have that customer experience or that patient experience and
Right.
and serving at that 5-star level, you're going to have a problem.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So
People don't want to go somewhere that's unknown. They don't want to be the beta
right.
tester of a doctor or a business or anything.
Exactly. And also you want to be treated right. I mean, there's
Mm.
so many surgeons you could go to and maybe they may be technically all good, but are you going to go with someone that is more personable and likable and you feel a trust level? Of course you're going to go with someone that you have a stronger trust level.
Right. Right.
So, so
Yeah.
that's also part of the branding.
Hmm. Yeah, I feel like especially in your field where you're focused a lot on medical groups and like doctor groups and things like that. Maybe I'm using the wrong terms because I'm not versed in
No,
the
no, you're
industry, but
good.
obviously you have to like think of the customer kind of first and foremost because it's such a personal thing. And I feel like that's something that a lot of brands ignore is like actually there's a person who's searching for your
Exactly.
product.
Right. Touching upon the whole customer experience is also something that I constantly learn, even at where I'm at in my
Hmm.
agency. Moving forward 20 years, I'm constantly learning about how that ties into my work. Why is
Hmm.
a client staying with you? Why is one leaving? I mean, you got to think about all this, and that does go back to your customer relationships or client relationships and how do you define customer success? I mean, if you're smart, you would have maybe been a little more attentive throughout the entire journey of every touch. They call it touch point before they
Hmm.
dropped, right?
Hmm.
But you got to figure out where in that journey was the drop off,
Yeah.
or how could you have prevented it or personalized your services even greater so that they don't want to leave because now they are confident in all that you do and they trust you and they're going to let you lead. I mean, that's the ideal client right there, you
Right.
know
Right.
but I think a lot of times people may see business as, I hate this using this word, but transactional.
Mhm.
You pay for your goods, your products get shipped, or you pay for the services, it's done, and then
Right.
bye. I mean, it's not in that way. I mean, I think all the successful businesses know that the customer journey is one of the top areas that needs constant attention and improvement
Mhm.
on. And it's something that I like to incorporate in what we do. I'm usually the client interface for the clients, so
Mhm.
I talk to them on a regular basis and I give them pretty much a summary, a rundown of what is being done and what we're working on, and and translate any misunderstandings or their lack of not understanding what some digital campaigns are for.
Right,
So
right. Yeah. Yeah, I love that you incorporate that. I definitely have seen this trend where, yeah, the companies that focus on the customers, the companies that are customer obsessed at every level are the ones that end up retaining customers, end up getting more reviews, end up ranking
mhm,
higher because people are talking about them online. Like the more you can create this great relationship every step of the way, like it's
mhm.
the more your company's gonna thrive.
Well, if we reverse this and let's say I'm the client, right, and you're the agency provider,
Mhm.
I don't want to have to keep searching for someone every few years because it's
Right.
like starting over. And if I stay with someone, they become a partner for you rather than just a vendor because
Mhm.
they know every gamut of every campaign that you ran. They know your brand, they know how you speak, they know your messaging, they know pretty much all of it. And if you stop and go all the time, it's very difficult to succeed like that.
Mhm.
If you're with someone, let's say for a couple years, and for whatever reason, there's a departure and separation, then you have to hire a new person. It really is like starting all over again. But if you stay with someone for 8 years, you're going to go so much further. The
Right.
mileage is much greater.
Right. Right. I'd love to hear, is there any way that you kind of incorporate this kind of customer obsession, customer journey focus into the way that you actually carry out the digital marketing strategy?
So typically, clients are with me between 2 to 6 years.
Mhm.
And let's say I'll pick someone that's like on the longer end, and we might start really small initially.
Mhm.
Okay, is that I get hired for a basic level of services, let's say 1 to 5 different things, and I'm okay with that because we're building a relationship, right?
Right.
And I'm getting to know them, they're getting to know me. But what happens is we start from a foundational level of SEO and some other campaigns, and we build upon, we pretty much have to show ourselves and prove ourselves, and we deliver. What happens is through that process, the client's looking at you now, oh wow, they actually succeeded and they did
Mhm.
well, and they're giving us traffic, and we're seeing that, we're ranked in the not in the top 3 for organic and paid. Oh, they're performing, they're high performers now.
Right.
So then what happens is I say, okay, well, I have another idea. I think we should do some brand videos and client testimonials. And then we should do more of a series of podcasts because the podcast rankings index quicker and faster on Google search. So
Mhm.
now they're more open to receiving ideas from you because you have been successful. This is kind of the customer journey relationship that I'm talking about. If I had
Right.
pitched that immediately, they may have said, well, why would I do that? Why would I want to spend all of this money immediately when I haven't seen anything that you've done?
Yeah.
And so part of my customer success is, it's like, you're gradually building relationship and introducing them to new campaigns. And then it reaches a point where they just let you lead everything. And that's
Mhm.
what has happened with some clients. So I just tell them, okay, I think we should increase X amount of the budget on paid media. We need to add some video testimonials into that paid media, or I think we should do a podcast series on um, cardiovascular health. And then we
Mhm.
should do, so they become very open and they become excited now, and they understand. So if I didn't nurture that relationship and build that rapport, it may not have extended as long as it had.
Right. I see. Yeah. Yeah, I love that approach. I think that's so true. You have to get trust with your clients
Yeah,
before they'll trust you to do more.
and you're personalizing your relationship, right? I mean, a lot of times I hear this a lot, is that clients will complain about a certain agency that they've had for a couple years.
Mhm.
And I ask, well, why did you leave? And they say, because, they have too many other clients, were neglected. I hear this
Right.
often. And when clients call me, I pick up the phone and I'm talking to them and I'm pretty much within 24 hours, we're fixing the problems, whether it's some sort of error breakdown on the internet, or we have to swap out some graphic. I mean, we're on it within 24 hours. How many agencies do that?
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why they like us, because our turnaround time and our response level is very high.
Mhm.
Whereas, you ask someone to change, let's say, a graphic, it take them like a week.
Changing one
And
thing, add it to the list.
yeah. Well, let's see if you get them on the phone.
Yeah, yeah,
you
I
know.
definitely feel like that's something that's lost as companies get bigger. Like it's easier to have this like kind of silo effect. It's easy to have this thing where the clients get neglected. So yeah, I feel like
Right.
it's so important to just like go client first, go I'm gonna give everybody individual attention that they deserve, that they need, that's
Exactly.
gonna make them grow more.
The personalization is very important in client
Mhm.
relationship.
Right.
I mean, that's how you ultimately grow the relationship to be bigger than it was before.
Mhm.
And you're now more of a partner and you're discussing ideas together. It's not like I pay you, you give me the product, and I decide if I like it or not. And if I don't like it, then I just move on to the next, supplier or provider. And
Exactly.
um, that I'm more about focusing on the client, and I like to nurture them to VIP clients because everyone wants to be treated that way.
Right.
And there's a reason why successful people will pay for that as well.
Mhm. Right.
It's hard
Right.
to find as it is. So the more rare, the more they're willing to.
Mhm. That's great. That's great. So when you are kind of working on these strategies, working on these relationships, as you kind of ramp up what you're doing for clients, I'd love to hear more about how do you decide what to do next? Obviously, it's different for every brand, but when it comes to digital marketing, there's so many proverbial baskets that you could put your eggs
Sure.
into.
Yeah. So in SEO, there's what you call on page and off page SEO. And on page is essentially all the bells and whistles of metadata and H1 tags, et cetera, et cetera. It gets very technical
Right.
that, I always use the analogy of like turning on a house. You need the plumbing, the lighting, everything. It's the same thing with a website. So that's a basic level of building the SEO. Then there's the off-page SEO, which is multiple strategies that you do, from backlinks to paid media to PPC, all anything that's a campaign outside of the website that's driving in, that is off
Hmm.
page. But let's say a new client comes and let's say they're launching a restaurant. So I would probably go for PPC first, the Google sponsor ads, because they need quick advertisement immediately. So I
Hmm.
think any company that has a product they want to launch immediately, I think PPC is great for the short term,
Right.
and it's a great announcement for that brand as well. But SEO is always the long game, and
Hmm.
it will be less costly as well, because SEO is what you do every day. It's
Yeah.
it's the blogs that you write every day. It's the videos that you post. It's the social media marketing. It's it's the daily tasks of everything that you need for SEO. That's the long game.
Hmm.
But if you can do both and you have the budget to do both, that's always great. But for a smaller client that doesn't have a big budget, that has, several million, they're gonna shoot for the SEO side for
Hmm.
sure.
Right.
Um, but I'm a big proponent of videos and podcasts. As you know, I'm on podcasts
Yeah.
because people nowadays love videos and podcasts because it's more personable, and the media side is going to be more compelling than reading pages and pages and pages of text and articles. And it also ranks a lot faster and higher,
Hmm.
surprisingly. I mean, I've seen that happen with clients. Is we produce X amount of videos, and they could be a main video plus let's say we call it the snippets or the shorts of the 30 seconds to 1 minute that is being syndicated on LinkedIn, Facebook, all the social media, Instagram, and videos and podcasts. They just seem, I don't know, it seems like Google search favors that more.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Because
I
yeah,
definitely have seen that too. Sorry, continue.
yeah, no, you're good, because if you Google a brand's name, I mean, of course, if you should show up for your own brand name. If you don't, that's a problem. But when you go to the video page, you're pretty much everywhere, especially with the hashtags, and with all the podcast platforms nowadays. It's
Right.
very interrelated.
It's definitely been crazy to see this kind of evolution of Google search, where Google's kind of slowly but surely integrating more social media results into
Right.
like the search results. You'll Google a company, you'll Google a brand, and it'll have their website, but it'll also have their Facebook page. It'll have tweets that mention them. It might even link to
Exactly.
their Instagram. Yeah.
So all of that we talked about, the off page, on page, and the videos, podcasts, that's all SEO juice.
Mhm.
This is all SEO juice to boost your brand. And that's where the tipping point happens, when you flood the market or the internet with so much that if you are, I guess, a word, aggressive about it, and it also depends on your budget. You can definitely dominate that world on internet, and that is
Right.
why some people are ranked and indexed much higher than your competitors, because they're doing everyday tasks to promote it. If you're not
Mhm.
writing blogs, you're not producing any content, you're not speaking, you're not on videos, you will drop off, even if you're in the top number one, number two, number three. I've seen people that were number one as eye surgeons in Newport, Carlsbad, and they drop from number one to like not even in the top four.
No.
Happens. There's an upkeep.
Mhm.
It's
Right.
almost like an athlete practicing, right? It's, if you don't practice and you don't produce, you will drop off even though you were in the top rankings.
Yeah, that's something that I definitely appreciate about SEO as I've been personally learning
Yeah.
about it, like getting more into the digital marketing space, is that you really cannot fake it. Like you have
You
to
can't fake it,
actually
right?
do it. Like you can
Exactly.
buy ads and pretend like you get some traffic, but like the organic traffic, if you're not doing the work, it's just not going to be there.
Exactly. And then also, when you talk to people, you can sense their knowledge level.
Right.
Like, even because I'm in the industry, I can tell immediately in 5 minutes how the person is, and
Right.
it, this work is not like you take a couple courses in digital marketing, now you're an expert.
Mhm.
I mean, you got to have some background and history of being successful in providing work and have some success stories to tell. It's not just this quick little, you get certified for a few courses and that's it.
Yeah.
You can tell in the quality work and the way they speak and their language on what is real.
For people who are not experts by any means, like how would you go about telling, is this person for real?
Um, well, are you saying, are they learning from you, or are you saying, am I identifying if they're a fraud or not?
Maybe seeing if they're being genuine about the amount of knowledge they have. So like, are they a fraud or are they
Right,
actually knowledgeable?
right. So, I see this often with clients that have come to me, and I feel bad that they spent all this money on them for a couple of
Oh
years,
no.
and then I'm looking at like, well, what did they what did they produce? They said, well, they sent me
Hmm.
monthly traffic reports every month. I said, well, yeah, but what did they do? Like, what tactics or what campaigns did they produce? And they just keep talking about the monthly reports. And then I just say, well, that only takes me like 5 minutes to go into analytics or SEM Rush to pull the report for you. I mean, it's not difficult. Um, I think how you tell is they can't deliver and they can't show you, and they don't have any form of results to show
Mm,
you. I mean, there's just no proof of evidence except that they're very good at sales and they
Right.
talk a good game. They've sold you a story, and some people are very good. I mean, that's why they're salespeople too, but it's just, they sold you a story, and they may have promised you something that is most likely not attainable, because I think there are some SEO guys that come out of the gate and they say, oh, we can get you up on the rankings within 3 months. No
Mm-hmm.
problem. 3 months, or maybe in 2 weeks. And when I
Oh,
hear
that's
that, I say, are you
crazy.
kidding me? It takes me 3 months just to build out the content and the
Right.
campaigns and to generate some sort of momentum. It takes that long to just build the momentum. It's
Mm-hmm.
not possible unless you do black hat, and that is illegal. There's white
Yeah.
hat and black hat. Um, but I think you can tell pretty quickly. You'll see the mask is taken off within a few months. It's
Mm-hmm.
obvious.
Right. Right.
So,
Yeah. I think that's maybe why it can be so tempting, is that actually building great SEO takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. And if someone promises it, oh, we could do it in 3 weeks, or like, oh, we could do it in 3 months, then the person might say, that's the person I want to go with.
I mean, there's no shortcuts, you know.
Right.
So sorry,
Right.
I'm just like my throat.
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah, we've been talking a lot, so take a rest if you need.
Hey, you're good.
Um,
Thanks.
and it's also like sickness season, so you know.
Yeah, it's rainy here. It's like it's been raining for like the last 5 days here,
Oh yeah.
which is unusual, but it's
That
good.
is strange. Maybe good for the earth, but bad for
Yes. Well, we're always in drought here in California, so it's
yeah.
definitely a good thing.
Yeah, I'd love to hear about like what you think are the most foundational aspects of SEO, and how you think those might even be changing. Will they change, or will they stay the same?
Yeah. So, I mean, just on a general level, I think a lot of people have talked about artificial intelligence, right? And how that's going to come into any of the digital world. And I heard there's some content writing that can be reproduced through artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, okay, well, yeah, maybe they could write some content for you. The duty is done. Is there any soul in that writing? Probably not. Is there any emotional effect in that writing? Probably not. Are there keywords? Yes, there probably will be keywords. But when you're up against something like artificial intelligence, I think it's important to recognize, you know, at the end of the day, we're talking to human beings,
Right.
and the personalization of service is always going to outshine any form of technology. If technology is great to enhance what you do, it's a
Totally.
supplementary. But I'm sure if I get a bunch of people that want to argue this, but we have our own perspectives on things. But as an agency owner, I will utilize technology in the best way possible for things that are needed, like the reporting, the performance metrics, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I will never replace my writers. I think my writers will write more from an emotional level, which is required in good writing. Is how do
Right.
you draw someone in? And in the customer service level, the personalization is going to be important. I mean, just as a simple example, when you call a bank or hotel, a credit card, no one wants to be on that automated service. Everyone's trying to bypass that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't it be nice if someone could just pick up the phone within 2 rings or 3 rings
Yeah.
and you talk to a human person? Everybody wants to talk to a human voice. Most people do. But then there's some people, I guess, don't want to. That's another, you already know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's a
But
whole other category.
yeah, that's, you're talking about introverts, extroverts, they don't want to engage with people. I mean, that's a whole nother thing. But I feel that technology is to be used, but not to replace people,
Right. I definitely agree with that. I
you
definitely
know?
agree with that. Yeah, as a content writer myself, I've been playing around with like
Oh,
Chat
wow. Yeah.
GPT, and it's crazy that it can do so well, but also kind of reassuring that it can only do so much, you know? Like
Right.
it's never it's and I've definitely seen also that just on Twitter, different people testing it out and then Google kind of recognizing that it's not I know that Google's been doing a lot of stuff to kind of fight against no, you shouldn't be able to rank with an AI produced
Yeah,
article. Like that's not fair because then you could just produce thousands of AI written articles full of keywords and then
exactly.
suddenly you'll be
I mean, I've already
ranking.
been pitched by people to come in and help my agency with AI articles. And it's supposed to be this new hot thing to be
Mhm.
utilized to help with your SEO rankings. But even before this AI technology, this content writing, I was always about editorial.
Right.
I was a writing major. I was an English major, writing major. I do a lot of writing currently,
Mhm.
but I would always choose quality editorial over keywords,
Mhm.
even though technically I'm supposed to embed and sprinkle these little keywords. If an article doesn't make sense and you're just trying to force the keywords in, what is the point? There is no
Right.
point.
Right.
I mean, people are drawn in because they want to read the story about the client or your product or something. It's not just a bunch of fillers coming in just because it needs to be done, you
Right.
know? So
Right.
I'm definitely a big proponent of editorial, regardless of the technical aspects or the technical requirements,
Mhm. Right,
you
right.
know?
I think that's such a, like, specific skill to be cultivating and something really only a person could do, which is writing something that a person would want to read, but also, like, being able to, when necessary, kind of incorporate the keywords in without making it sound ridiculous.
Or manipulated. Yeah, it's definitely
Mhm.
being manipulated if you tell your writer, okay, you have to put in these 10 keywords no matter what.
Right.
I
Right.
mean, seriously, I mean, I don't say that to them. I obviously say, here are the top search keywords. If it makes sense for you to use them and it flows, then do. But if it doesn't,
Mhm.
then don't,
Right. Right.
So
Right.
yeah.
That's so important. That's so important. Yeah, I definitely it's interesting to see where things going. Definitely things like Google's helpful content updates, stuff like that kind of reinforces, oh, no, we're never just going to accept these articles that are chock full of keywords. Like we want to make sure this is actually a helpful thing. Like this should actually be a resource people want to click on, people want to read this article, people want to engage with this content. It's not
Right.
just robot blabber.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's really important to deliver value in what you do. If there's no value in what you do, what is the purpose?
Right. Right.
It's just, you just got to really think about that in what you do. I mean, even when you do an interview and videos, people would ask, well, how do you know what questions to ask? Well, this is your opportunity to show the audience or let the client show their personality, their style, their tone, who they are, what they want to deliver as a message. So it's important to show all of that in your content and your questions. There's some strategic process that needs to happen before the interview. And I think sometimes people want to just wing it. You could wing it if you really know your material well. If you
Right.
if you don't know your material, you're not gonna do as well. So
Mhm. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, and I feel like that comes back to like a good SEO, a good content creator is going to be, as you said earlier, like this kind of translator, like you're taking information that you're an expert on and you're translating it to your audience. You're making it
yeah.
intelligible. Yeah. I
Yeah. And the client doesn't have to know exactly what AdWords is or analytics. They just need to know what's the end goal of what you're doing. And they just need to understand layman terms why you're doing that and what's the end goal. And at the end of the day, clients really don't care what digital campaign or platforms you're using. They're looking
Right.
at your revenue and they're looking at your conversions at the end of the month. So
Right.
that's what everybody wants.
Exactly. Exactly. I do have just one last question, which
Sure,
is
sure.
for those people who are maybe feeling like they're lacking in SEO strategy, they're just like getting into the digital marketing side of things, or maybe
Mhm.
want to revamp, like where's the first place to start?
Yeah, well, you definitely need a website of your own business, right? And I've spoken at USC for the young entrepreneurs there, and they
Mhm.
ask this question too. Say, well, where do I start? Well, I hope you decide on a business that you enjoy
Mhm.
mostly. It's not like I mean, of course we all need to make money and, pay our bills and so forth, but you want to have a website that is very compelling, engaging, and shows who you are, not just offline, but online. Like, for example, let's say you go to a conference and you're speaking at this conference, and they go back and Google you and look at your website. Are you matching the same level as a website, as a
Mhm.
person? So, your website presentation matters. Also, delivering your content, you got to decide what is making you shine above the noise,
Mhm.
because there's going to be it depends on what industry you are. You always got to think, how do I be seen out of that saturation? And
Right.
as far as the SEO, yeah, you can start basic with the social media marketing, the blogs, getting some guest posting. You can, it's very easy. You can just Google the basics of SEO, what you can do on the keyword search, but you have to build a lot of content initially. And I think the fastest thing that you could do is build a website, build out some videos and podcasts and social media to start off
Mhm.
with. Then you could get more granular, and if you have more of a budget, then go into the paid media and the PPC. But
Right.
um, it's a constant learning process. I think people tend to give up very easily. They think,
Mhm.
oh, I'm not showing anything on the internet for 6 months, I'm going to stop. No, this is an investment and a commitment if you want to do this. And sometimes your SEO results won't show up until after a year,
Right.
and
Exactly.
it's definitely a commitment. It's not, a fast, it's not a fast turnaround game. If you're looking for that, then you probably don't want to be an entrepreneur. If you
Mhm.
want to be an entrepreneur, you have to have high discipline, high grit, high stamina,
Right.
and the constant education. But yeah, I think, the most basic level is just to start with having your website, deciding who you are, your positioning, your branding, have your basic stuff ready. Like I
Mhm.
call it the basic collateral: your website, your logo, your tagline, a summary of who you are. And then after you have the basics down, then decide, okay, how am I going to present myself on social media, on the videos, on the podcast, and then build relationships with people, also other guest bloggers. Um, there's other companies that could help you depending on what you're doing. That could be affiliate marketing, but there's so many ways to go about it. But I was to start with a very basic level first and get that
Right.
done. I mean, I didn't come into doing digital knowing everything right away. Like I
Exactly.
said, I started with a really small account. It was a very, you got to you start from a humble place and a
Mhm.
little small account. And then I was very eager to learn as I go. So it's not like you just arrive, you're constantly going and you're constantly learning no matter what level you are. That's how the journey is, really.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. You just have to start building the foundation and keep going.
Yeah, and then you're experimenting in the beginning. You might think, oh, this is a route, why am I not getting enough video views? Well, maybe because it's only been 2 months.
Right. Maybe nobody knows who you are.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's what do they say with entrepreneurs? You throw something at the wall and you keep throwing it at the wall until something sticks.
Right.
To be a little more grounded with that philosophy is like, when I work with my clients and I have running, let's say 10, 15 different campaigns simultaneously, at the end of the month, I do look at what's performing and what's not performing. The campaigns are not performing, you delete and axe immediately, and you optimize on the ones that do. And that's what you want to do as an entrepreneur, is to see, where your investments and ROI and your commitment and energy level is going. If you're giving 80% to one channel or one venue and it's not delivering, I would just keep experimenting until you see some sort of traction going on.
Yeah. I think that's something that in the kind of instant gratification era that we're in, like people give up very quickly because they're
very easily,
if the first thing doesn't work. So yeah, that's great advice. That's great. It's good to remember that.
Yeah. And then, it's also, remember, you're experimenting in the beginning, I mean, it's until you master certain parts, you're always on a perpetual learning curve in some ways. I mean, there's, even where I'm at now, I'm still learning new ways of doing business.
Right.
And new ways I'm always looking for new ways to market. It's not just the gamut of what I've served. I think even with everything I have served in the gamut of digital marketing, which is like a huge umbrella, I'm still looking for new ways, because that's what we're supposed to do.
Right. Yeah. It's cool to be in an industry that's always changing,
evolving,
like always more to learn. It's exciting.
It is. I mean, I'm not an accountant. I wouldn't survive in that world.
I don't think anything has changed in accounting since Excel was invented.
I have friends that are accountants, so I'm not, so I'm just saying, like, they're probably gonna listen to this. Yeah. Well, thanks, Judy.
Yeah, this is not an accountant slander podcast, to be clear. Yeah, that's a perfect place to wrap up. So yes, thank you so much, Judy. You've given us so much great experience. You are obviously an expert. You are not a fake SEO guru. This is awesome. This has been Judy Lin. Her information will be in the podcast details. And yeah, we'll see you next week on the Syncast. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Madeleine.